Hello everyone and welcome to Economic Survey 2021-22 lecture series. So guys, the first thing to do whenever you study a government document like economic survey or budget for that matter is to find out what is the theme of the economic survey, because if you understand the theme and the basic principle, you would understand why government has followed certain set of policies. So let us see what is the theme of economic survey this year. Now, to help you understand the theme of the economic survey, what I did is I have kept the last year's economic survey on this side, this year's economic survey on this side. I'll show you, I know you are going to laugh at it, but I'll show you one very interesting thing. So see here. So here you have a doctor and a nurse, which means medical staff and support staff. So all the people from medical fraternity are there, which means that the theme of this survey, which was there last year, 2020-2021, the theme revolved around life of people, health of people. Hence, so medical staff, doctors, nurses, and all those people are prominently given on the cover of the economic survey. In this year's economic survey, if you see, there are so many things given in the economic survey in terms of picture on the cover. So this is 2021-22, the current economic survey. Here, as I told you a few minutes back, that you see there is a doctor who is running after people with injection in the hand. It's a vaccine. So last year, overall health was very, very important and it was the central theme. But this year, you see, what is the theme? So doctor is running with a vaccine. You have roads, you have metro projects, you have satellites, right? You have drones. Can you see that? So there is this agricultural field and there is a drone. So these are some of the important things which are given on the cover of the economic survey. It clearly shows that here we were confining ourselves to a few things where health was the priority. Now when you come to this year's economic survey, you see that there are many things that we are trying to handle, which means we are coming out of our confinement and we are trying to explore many options. When do you explore options? You explore options when you are not very sure about what to do. So what you do is you create a lot of options for yourself and then you start to follow each of those options and see what works for you. So whenever there is confusion, chaos, what do? You do a few things and see what works. So whatever works, great. And whatever doesn't work, you leave it. Whatever works, you follow it more. So here we were very precise that, okay, health has to be priority number one. Here we have so many things that we want to do. That's the change. I have not yet told you the technical theme. I'm just giving you basic ideas. Now let us look at the technical theme of last year and then let's compare it with this year. So see, this was the economic survey last year, 2020-2021. When COVID happened, guys, the first thing that happened in the economy was a health crisis. Because of COVID, we suffered from health crisis. The moment health crisis happened, we had no idea about how to react because it's once in a century crisis. Nobody knew what is COVID, what medicines to follow, what precautions to take, right? So what did we do? We immediately thought that the first thing that we have to do is we have to control the health effect. Whatever is the negative effect of COVID on health, we have to first control it. Fine. So Government of India said that our priority will be to save lives. But then, what did you do to save lives? We started to, put restrictions, lockdown. We started to improve the health infrastructure. So what happened when you put restrictions and lockdowns? People lost jobs, right? People had no money. Plus, you have to spend money on health. So whatever savings you have spent all your savings because COVID treatment, mind you, was not cheaper. It was very costly. So what happened because of COVID? There was health crisis and there was also economic crisis. First, it was health crisis. Later on, livelihood of people was affected. So you see, so the dilemma in front of the government last year was whether to save lives or whether to save livelihood of people. Livelihood would mean providing jobs, providing, economic strength to people. And saving lives would mean that it's a dangerous situation like COVID, how to save lives of people, how to minimize the impact, negative impact on life and health of people. Now, so what did the government of India do? The first thing government did was to save lives. And how did it save lives? Restriction, lockdown and health infrastructure. And then once this was taken care of, they started to take some steps towards health. Then they started to give some benefits to MSMEs and vulnerable section of the society, because ultimately you have to give livelihood support to people as well. See, during a crisis, if I'm a person who is rich, I belong to the middle class or upper middle class, I can survive. But if I belong to vulnerable section, I am a poor guy, I survive on daily wages, all right, I am below poverty line person, how will I survive? How will I buy food? How will I buy medicines? It becomes next to impossible for me. So supporting people's livelihood was also a big challenge for the government. But they started with saving lives and they also came out to save livelihood later on. Fine, this was the theme last year. So now guys, let's come to this year's economic survey and let us see what the theme of the economic survey this year is. You see, this is the current year's economic survey and the theme this year is policy making under uncertainty. Let me tell you why they have picked this theme this year. You see, it's very simple. Last year when economic survey was being written, India had suffered from only the first wave of COVID, and we already knew how the first wave looks like, and we thought that this would be the last and India would not suffer from any other wave. Now, unfortunately, what happened is, in between the first and the second economic survey, India has already suffered from 2 more waves. So if COVID waves start to come one after another, and we have no idea if another wave is in the making, this creates policy uncertainty and we become little clueless as to how to create policies, what economic policies to launch, how to take care of our vulnerable section. This becomes a challenge for the policymaker. Hence, the policymakers are saying that lives and livelihood was the debate which was most important last year, but this year, since we have no clue about how many more waves are there, what to do under each of the wave, the nature of the waves are different. So there is so much of uncertainty and confusion, plus we cannot predict future. We cannot say when the world is going to be completely out of COVID. So this is uncertainty. So when you have to make policies under uncertainty, it becomes very, very challenging. This is the theme of current year's economic survey. To help you understand what is the meaning of this theme of the current year's economic survey, I have taken an example. So suppose, guys, that you have to appear in an interview, right? Now that's you and that's your house. Now you have to go and appear in the interview. So what you do is you get ready and then you look out of your window and you see that there are clouds. When you see clouds, what do you expect? You expect rain, right? But it is not sure and it is not certain that there will be rain. But the sky looks little cloudy. Interview is so important that you cannot escape the interview and you cannot skip the interview. It's about your career and life. The interview might be UPSC interview, the interview might be related to some important job, etc. Right? So what do you do in that case? So the first thing, remember what's the first thing that you did? When you have to go and attend interview at this place, it's an office. Suppose it's a UPSC interview. So what's the first thing that you did? The first thing that you did is you came out of your window, you looked out of the window and you started to see whether there are clouds. And you see, yes, there are clouds. Then what do? Then fortunately, you have a friend who stays little far away from your house towards the interview office. So you call that friend and ask this friend that, hey, my friend, so tell me, is the sky cloudy at your place also? Do you see clouds at your place also? So he also says, yes, there are clouds, which means now you have data, you have information that there are clouds where you stay, there are clouds where the UPSC office or the interview office is located, which means there is a very high chance that it will rain. What will you do now? You have to now do 2 things. Number 1, you have to make sure that you reach the office for interview. See, you have to reach here. And number 2, you have to make sure that you have taken some precaution or steps to save yourself from rain, because if you get wet in the rain, if you are drenched in the rain, how will you give your best in the interview, right? Your clothes will be wet, etc. You won't be able to perform well in the interview. So you have to take precautionary steps also. So what are the few things that you have done? Number one, you are a smart guy. So when you have to appear in the interview, you look out of your window and you see there are clouds. You call your friend and ask that, does he observe the cloud also? He says yes. Then what do? Now you take an umbrella. Why? Because you know that it's cloudy. So you take an umbrella and you keep it with yourself. So have you taken some safety measure? Yes, umbrella is your safety measure. Once you have the umbrella, then you take your bike and you start to move towards the interview center. So are you taking a risk because you are going out in the rain? Of course. Who knows when thunder will strike, when there will be heavy rainfall? You are taking the risk, but along with risk, you have also taken a safety measure of protecting yourself using the umbrella. These are the things that you have done. So did you observe something interesting? That there was uncertainty, whether it will rain, whether it's going to be heavy rain or it's not going to rain. So whenever you have uncertainty in life, where you are confused, you have no idea what is happening. Even in that case, you can create policies, you can take some steps which look very logical, which might not give you the results, but the steps would be logical and there is a high expectation that it will give you good results. Like you have kept umbrella, you have taken a bike and you have collected information whether it will rain or not. So yes, you have adopted a logical approach in the situation of uncertainty. That is what this year's economic survey is talking about. That when there is so much of uncertainty about different waves of COVID, how are our economists and policymakers going to make policies for the betterment of this country? So see, can I give you slightly more details of the theme of the economic survey? So what have we done? Look at the boxes, please. Now this is uncertainty, confusion and risk, right? Remember this example, guys. I'm just going to use this example only, that it's going to rain, you see the clouds, but you have to appear in the interview, which means that there is uncertainty, confusion, there is chaos. What do you do when there is confusion, right? What do you do? Whenever there is confusion, there is chaos, you do two things. Number one, first of all, you collect information. Like you called your friend and asked him that, hey friend, do you see clouds near your house also? He says yes. So you are collecting information. You went out of your window and you saw, yes, there are clouds. So that's collection of information. When you collect information, what do? You act, right? How do you act? The first thing that you do, that you keep your bike ready. And the second thing that you do is you take some safety measures. For example, you keep your umbrella. Just in case there is heavy rainfall, you keep umbrella. So first of all, you collected information and then you start to act. And how do you act? Number one, you take a risky decision that even if it rains, I'm going to go out. So you keep your bike ready. And number two, you take some safety measures or precautions also. When you go out in the rain, all right, so whenever you are going out in rain with your bike and umbrella, so the moment you go out, you see that there is little drizzle only. It's not a very heavy rain. There are few drops here and there. So then you update that information in your mind that, oh, there is just few drops here and there. So I can manage. I don't need to, do anything big here. I don't need to stop. I can keep moving, right? So you update the information. You take feedback. When you go out, that how is the weather, you see hardly 1 or 2 drops and then you are relaxed that okay, it's fine. So based on that feedback, etc., what are you going to do? You are going to act, which means you keep moving. You don't need to change your plans. But suppose it starts to rain, you will stop in between for some time, pull out your umbrella and wait for the rain to be controlled, right? So what are the steps that you do? Number one, in uncertainty, you first collect information. Then you take a decision to go out. You also create some safety measures, right? And then you keep moving and you keep updating yourself about the weather when you are going out. This whole thing, set of activities that you have done, it has a very nice name actually. So this part is called as Barbell Strategy. What is barbell strategy? Barbell strategy means that whenever you have confusion, situation is uncertain, there is a lot of chaos, how are you going to move ahead, right? What is the best way to handle chaos, uncertainty and confusion? So this is your barbell strategy. What are the two steps in the barbell strategy that we have seen here? So the first step in the barbell strategy that we have seen here is called as agile approach. This is your agile approach, guys. What is agile approach? You collect data, then you decide your action, and then you go out and then you see how the real weather is. After you have acted, you go out and then you check how the real weather outside is. Based on that, you decide your future course of action. So you collect information, act. When you act, you again collect information and you readjust. This is called as agile approach, flexible approach, right? Now, the second thing in the barbell strategy is called safety measures or safety nets. Safety measures or safety nets. Why do you take safety measures or safety nets? Because you have to minimize risk. Here you took a risky decision because you are going out in rain, but you have to minimize risk also, you took an umbrella. So barbell strategy here comprises of two things. Number one, agile approach. Number two, safety nets. This is your barbell strategy. Now, imagine if we have to launch a barbell strategy for entire economy. So do you see now that if you replace this story that I gave you about this guy and facing rainfall, if you replace this entire story for Indian economy, what will you see? Indian economy is suffering from challenges. What are the two types of challenges Indian economy is suffering because of COVID? Number one, there is a short-term challenge. There is a short-term uncertainty that Indian economy is suffering. What is the short-term uncertainty? Whether there will be a new wave, because there is one wave after another. We don't know when there will be immediate lockdown. So these are the points of confusion and short-term strategy. What is the long-term strategy? Because of frequent waves, frequent lockdowns, many companies have adopted a policy of work from home. That's a long-term thing. Long-term change, you see. Now we have become more conscious of health, etc. So consumer behavior in the market has changed, right? So we are eating more healthy food, etc., etc. All of us are wearing masks, so our lifestyle has changed. Because of COVID, etc., digital technology has been given more importance, so technology is changing. There is a change in geopolitics around the world also. Now many countries who were earlier friends, now they are competitors. So equations and relationships between countries have changed. The global supply chain has changed. For example, earlier, do you remember that which country was called as the factory of the world or manufacturing hub of the world? China. Because China used to give raw material to all the countries and China used to give finished product to all the countries. Because of COVID, the factories even in China got shut down. So now if I have to buy raw material, can I depend on China? No. Can I depend on any one country in the world? No. Can I depend on any one country for finished products? No. If I have to buy a laptop, I know that most of the laptops are being manufactured in China, right? So I can't get laptop from there because even Chinese factories are shut down. Like automobile. So everybody loves to have, bike and car. But do you know that even if you demand a lot of four-wheeler these days, cars and SUVs, you won't get it easily. Why? Because there are some components in the automobile called as semiconductors, which we used to buy from other countries like China. Now they are not supplying it, their factories are not running at full capacity. So even if you want to buy a car, you have the money, you can't buy it. There is a wait period which is very, very long, 6-7 months wait period. So you see, there has been disturbance in the global supply chain, right? So what are the kinds of uncertainties that Indian economy is facing? See guys, Indian economy is facing short-term uncertainty, long-term uncertainty. Short-term uncertainty, repeated waves, immediate disruption, less reaction time. One wave after another, you have no idea how to control it and what to do, short-term. And I told you long-term uncertainty, technology is changing, consumer behavior is changing, there is supply chain problem, there is geopolitics that is playing around. If you have so many things, short-term uncertainty, long-term uncertainty, don't you think that for a country like India, it becomes a challenge about how to make policies under uncertainty? Yes. Hence, this is the theme of current year's economic survey. Policy making under uncertainty. That's your theme. And what is the name of that theme? The name of that theme, policy making under uncertainty, is Barbell Strategy. Barbell Strategy. And this Barbell Strategy has two pillars. Number one is called as Agile Approach. And second is called as Safety Nets. So this year's economic survey, the theme is policy making under uncertainty, and it's called as Barbell Strategy that we have adopted. And why have we adopted Barbell Strategy? Because we want to follow a principle called as Agile Approach, and we also want to give safety nets to people. What is Agile Approach? I already explained it to you. So in Agile Approach, what do you do? Remember, when you have to go out in rain, you first collect the information that how much is the probability of rainfall, and then based on that you take an umbrella, you take a bike, all right, you arrange your ride, bike or cab or whatever, and then you act, which means you decide to go out. When you go out, you update yourself about the current situation of rainfall, and accordingly you adjust. Fine. This is your Agile Approach. So what will an economy do in case of Agile Approach? In case of Agile Approach, our policy maker, economist and government of India would collect information from the economy. What kind of information? Information related to inflation, employment, unemployment, GST collection, information related to industrial production. All these macroeconomic data is collected in Agile Approach. Based on the data collected, the government of India will frame policies. When a policy is launched, government of India would like to know the reaction of the policies on the economy. Based on the reaction, the policies are readjusted. This is your Agile Approach. And if you are doing something risky, Agile Approach might involve risk because you are launching policies based on data. So how do you take care of the vulnerable section, like women, like elderly, like children, like below poverty line people? How do you take care of those people? By giving them basic things of life: food, clothing, shelter, medicine. This is called safety net. These are the two things that you do in Barbell Strategy. That's your theme of the economic survey this year. Now, so see how the Barbell Strategy looks like. Guys, do you see? If you go to a gym or if you perform some exercises, you must be knowing that this weight that you see is called as a barbell. This is called barbell, right? What do you see? What is this person doing? Suppose this person is not a human being. Suppose we replace this person with Indian economy. So suppose this guy is Indian economy. So what should Indian economy do under uncertainty? Indian economy should adopt a barbell strategy. What is a barbell strategy? On one hand, you are performing activities here which are risky based on some data. On the other hand, you are also providing safety net to people and taking care of your vulnerable section. So you are doing two things: take huge risks plus also give safety net, nothing in between. In a barbell strategy, you only do two things. First of all, you do risky things and you also take some safety measures to minimize the risk. This is a set of activities called as barbell strategy. So create policies, which means take risk and also minimize risk by providing safety net. This is called as barbell strategy or Agile Approach. Fine. This is the theme of the economic survey. Now, if I have to explain barbell strategy and Agile Approach in slightly more technical manner, how would I explain it? I would take you to the world of finance. So those of you who understand what is the meaning of shares, bonds, etc., you understand that whenever you put your money in shares, bonds, there is always a risk involved, right? Nothing is risk-free in life. So suppose, guys, you have 100 rupees in your pocket, right? You have to invest that 100 rupees and you have to invest it in such a way that you can get more profits. What are the different ways in which you can invest your 100 rupees to get more profit? So let me show you different strategies. In the field of finance, there are three very popular strategies of investment, and so that you can increase your money. So the first strategy is called as a bullet strategy. What do you do in a bullet strategy? So suppose I have 100 rupees. What will I do? Either I will put all my 100 rupees and buy very short-term bonds. Short-term bonds would mean 1 year bond. Suppose I buy a bond for 1 year and I put 100 rupees. What will happen after 1 year? After 1 year, I will get my 100 rupees back. Plus, whenever you buy a bond, guys, you always get some rate of interest. So suppose the rate of interest is 10%, right? So I am putting 100 rupees in a bond, and after 1 year, I will get 100 rupees plus 10% means 10 rupees. 110 rupees will be my amount. How much profit have I made in 1 year bond? 10 rupees is the profit. So I invest 100 rupees, I make 10 rupees profit. That is what I do. So in a bullet strategy, if you have 100 rupees to invest, take all your 100 rupees and buy only short-term bonds. Similarly, if you don't like short-term bonds, put all your money in the medium-term bonds, like 5-year bond. That's a medium term. If you don't want to invest for medium term, put all your money, 100 rupees, in long-term bonds like 20-year bonds. For 20 years, buy a bond. So what is the meaning of bullet strategy? Bullet means very precise strategy. Either you put all your money in short-term bonds or medium-term bonds or very long-term bonds. This is bullet strategy. You know, if I have to use a popular language for bullet strategy, I would say that putting all your eggs in one basket is called as a bullet strategy. So if I have eggs in my hand, right? So if I take all my eggs and put it in one basket, which means short-term bonds, bullet strategy. Medium-term bonds, bullet strategy. Long-term bonds, bullet strategy. All right. So whenever you put all your money in either short-term, medium-term or long-term, all your bonds will mature at one go. Suppose I have bought 1 year bond of one company, then 1 year bond of another company, 1 year bond of a third company. All my bonds will give me profit after 1 year. And after, 1 year, I have nothing left. After 1 year, I'll get all the profit and that's it. Because I put all my money for 1 year. All right. So that is bullet strategy. A bullet strategy gives you profit, at one point of time only. Your profit is not over a period of time. Your profit is one time. That's a bullet strategy. What is the meaning of a ladder strategy? Now what I can do is, if I have 100 rupees, I can buy a bond of 1 year, or I can buy a bond of 5 year, and I can buy a bond of 20 years. So what I will do is, I will buy some bonds of 1 year, some bonds of 5 year, and some bond of 20 years. I will buy all these different kinds of bonds. So when you put your money in all the types of bonds available, so if I have 100 rupees, I will buy everything. That's called as a ladder strategy, because I'm spreading my money everywhere. So after 1 year, some of my bonds will mature and give me profit. After 5 years, some more bonds will mature and give me profit. After 20 years, some more bonds will mature and give me profit. That is called as ladder strategy. You see how simple it is, isn't it? Now the third strategy is called as a barbell strategy. That's a very important strategy. What is a barbell strategy? So in a barbell strategy, if I have 100 rupees, I will invest, I'm giving an example, I will invest, let's say 70 rupees in risky thing, or 80 rupees in a risk, 80 rupees in a short-term thing, and I will invest 10 rupees or 20 rupees in a long-term thing. So either I will buy, 1 year bond, and put some money here, for example, 70 rupees in 1 year bond, and I will also invest some money in a 20-year bond. So see, what am I doing? I am splitting my money in two parts. One, I am buying short-term bonds, and second, I am buying long-term bonds. This combination, where I am behaving at extremes, I am not buying anything in between, either here or here, right? So you must have heard this saying, Arya Par, right? So you behave at extremes. Either I will, put all my efforts, or I will not put efforts at all, isn't it? So I will buy 1 year bond, and I will buy 20-year bond. These are the two things that I do. So if you behave at extremes, you don't do anything in between. This extreme behavior is called as barbell strategy. Fine. So barbell strategy would mean, in the field of finance, barbell strategy would mean that you are putting some money in buying short-term things and some money in buying extremely long-term things, nothing in between. Is it fine? So that's your barbell strategy in the field of finance. So now let me explain a little bit more about barbell strategy and agile approach. This will give you a good idea of what our economists and policymakers are doing. So let me take you to this example. I know that you are going to connect with this example more, hence I took it. So that's you. You are preparing for UPSC, right? And you are going to follow something called as barbell strategy. How would barbell strategy be applied for UPSC preparation? So see, I told you, you have to behave at extremes, nothing in between, right? So what will you do? The first thing that you are going to do in barbell strategy is you are doing something risky. For example, you are studying for knowledge. Keep studying as much as you can. Gather as much information and knowledge as possible in a very aggressive manner, right? That's your first kind of strategy that you will do. So aggressive behavior to accumulate as much knowledge as possible. But you very well know that to crack UPSC, you need to qualify the cutoffs. You need to get some cutoff marks, minimum cutoff marks. Along with knowledge-oriented study, you also have to, follow marks-oriented study. If you don't get good marks in the exam, how will you qualify UPSC? Knowledge is very good. You must accumulate knowledge. But you should always keep in mind that along with knowledge, you must do marks-oriented studies as well. Which means if you know that questions will be asked from a particular topic, a subject or a section, prepare them first, right? So if you are preparing for UPSC, going after knowledge aggressively is a great thing only if you also follow this strategy of marks-oriented study. This combination has to be there, nothing in between. This will make sure that you meet the cutoffs, and this will make sure that your rank will be good. You will do well in terms of rank and profile. Alright, so this is barbell strategy in UPSC. Here you are doing something risky, here you are doing something conservative, right? Some mix. Now, see, I am going to show you something. So this is a book, right? This is a book, that's the book I'm talking about. This book is about Nazim Nicholas Taleb, and he has written a book whose title is Anti-Fragile: Things That Gain from Disorder. Alright, it's a beautiful book. So when people read it, they say that it's a very aggressive kind of book which sometimes adopts a very rude kind of stance, etc., etc. But keeping aside the criticism, there is a lot of learning involved which is mentioned in this book. So I'm going to give you a small summary of this book, and there you will understand what is a barbell strategy and why India has adopted barbell strategy. All right, it's a beautiful book which talks about this concept of anti-fragility. So you see, what is this book talking about? So this book says that there are three things that we see in life. All right, I'm going to give you a very small summary. So the first important thing according to this book is fragile things. So there are things which are fragile. There are situations which are fragile. Then there is something called as robust, right? Things which are solid. Then there is something called as anti-fragile. These are the three things that the book talks about, three situations rather. So what is a fragile situation? Let me give you an example. So suppose that you are an IAS officer, you are a bureaucrat. Your image is a very fragile thing. I will tell you why. Suppose you become an IAS officer and you become the district collector in a particular district. When you take charge of your job, that's you, all right, when you become IAS officer. The moment you become IAS officer, you want to maintain a clean image, you are an honest guy, a hard-working guy. But suppose somebody spreads a rumor that you are a corrupt person, right? Obviously, allegation of corruption is a very negative thing. Now, if somebody alleges that you are a corrupt person, that rumor spreads very fast. I might say that not many people will come to you for clarification, but there will be rumor and people will assume that, there is always a fire because of some spark. If there is no spark, there is no fire. So people will say that if there is rumor that you are corrupt, there might be some truth behind it. Even if you are not entirely corrupt, they will say that there might be some element of corruption in this person, and nobody is coming to you for a proof. So your reputation is a very fragile thing. And especially if you are into some responsible profession where you have to face public, your life is public life, right? So that's a very fragile kind of situation. So when you become a civil servant, make sure that you understand that your reputation is a fragile thing. Bureaucracy is so imagine bureaucracy is very fragile. Then there is something called as robustness. What is robustness? I'll give you an example. So you know what happened? Yesterday I took a cab. I took a cab from my house and I had to come to Vajiram. Now, when I booked the cab, I had a lecture at 9 a.m. in the morning. When I booked the cab driver first accepted my ride and then randomly cancelled it. So I asked the cab driver that, why did you cancel it? He said, I'm not in a mood to go. I'm taking a break. I said, then why did you accept? So he said, earlier I was in mood, now I'm not in mood. So mood swing happens, right? I'm not saying he's a bad person, but it happened. So after that, what I did, I booked another cab and I came. Now the same cab driver, so he's the cab driver, the same cab driver got another booking after 5 minutes. When he refused me, he got another booking after 5 minutes. This time he accepted the ride and he went to the passenger. Now that passenger or the customer where he went after refusing me, that passenger doesn't know what he had done before reaching him or her. So the new passenger do not know what the cab driver have done with the previous passenger, right? There is no way we can know about it. So if you talk about a cab driver, his reputation, his job is very robust. So even if a customer is not happy with this cab driver, the next customer would not know it. So his reputation is very robust. There is no problem. This profession is robust in that sense. Compare his profession with yours. You are a bureaucrat. Your reputation is very fragile. His reputation is very robust. No issues as such. So you see the difference, right? Now what is the opposite of fragile? The opposite of fragile is anti-fragile. So what is fragile? Fragile means that you get impacted by slightest of negative things. What is anti-fragile? Just the opposite of fragile, which means whenever somebody does a negative thing upon you, instead of getting negatively impacted, you become bigger and better, right? Which means whenever somebody does something against you in a negative manner, your reputation grows, your professionally you become more successful and you become even more stronger. That's called anti-fragile. Example. So let's look at this singer, right? Look at this singer and see what is happening. See, I'm not saying this singer is good or bad, but this particular singer is a social media influencer, right? So she releases her songs on different social media platforms. Some people love her, some people hate her. So suppose she releases a new song. 1 lakh people on her YouTube channel are pressing the like button. They are liking her song. But 10 lakh people, they hated her song and they pressed the dislike button. But the interesting thing about this is they hated her song after watching it. So total how many people have pressed the button on her YouTube channel? 11 lakh people. So you see what has happened. Even a bad name is a name, right? So the more people hate her, the more famous she becomes. The more people love her, the more famous she becomes. Even if you do negative thing against her, she will become more famous. She will become a stronger influencer. All right. So there are some professions which have the behavior or which have a peculiar characteristic of being anti-fragile. You do bad for them, they grow, they become more stronger. Now, so don't you feel that in life, we wish that all of us could become anti-fragile. So if something bad will happen against us, we will become more strong. Don't you wish that we should be like that? Yes. Even the policy makers of India want this. They feel that if something bad is happening in this country like COVID, something negative is happening like the new variant of COVID, Omicron, etc. Even if something bad is happening in the economy, our policy makers want that in this risky situation, uncertain situation, we should create a strategy so that India becomes more strong even if there is a crisis. So India wants to become, India wants this anti-fragility. India wants to become anti-fragile. Hence, we have to adopt a strategy. So Nassim, in his book, has said that if you want to become anti-fragile, there is a formula, there is a method, right? Which method shall you adopt to become anti-fragile? So he says that if you want to become this, you have a formula or a method called as barbell strategy. What do you do in barbell strategy? In barbell strategy, you collect some information, and then based on information, you can do risky things, not a problem. But first you collect information and then you do risky things, you create policies. When you create policies, again take feedback. Based on the feedback, if you need to change your policy, keep changing. So even if you have to keep changing your policy one after another, keep changing it. Take some risks. But while you are doing all these things, this is called as agile approach. Collect data, create policy, and keep changing your policy. Agile approach. While you are doing this agile approach, make sure that you also have a safety net. So do something so that all your activities should not be only risky. If you are taking risk, do something which is safe also. It's a combination. So for example, if you want to create policies for India which are risky, do that. But while you are creating risky policies, etc., make sure that you take care of children, women, vulnerable section, below poverty line people. Don't leave them empty stomach. Give them food, clothes, medicine, home, shelter, etc. Take care of their health. That's called safety net. So one of the ways to become anti-fragile is barbell strategy, where you do risky things based on data, no problem, but then you also should take some safety measures, right? This is your barbell strategy.